If you see this, do not pick it up.
If you're superstitious, man, this is some bad mojo, dude. You don't want to pick that helmet up. This is a video that was recommended to me by a subscriber on YouTube, shout out Brendan Drake, and this video went super viral on YouTube showing this guy who's just recently dug up what looks to be an old World War II era helmet. The guy then picks the helmet up, and there's a little bit of a struggle, and then we find out why, because the rest of the soldier is underneath the helmet if you catch my drift. For some reason though, this guy's not worried about this and picks up the helmet and removes it and places it on the ground. Now there's not a lot of context behind this video, but I really hope that this guy is authorized to do this and that he's just trying to return the soldier to his family, or at least his descendants. But if not, and this guy was just randomly digging and discovered this in the woods and decided to move it, this is a really bad idea, and obviously if you're superstitious, this guy is definitely going to be cursed or haunted at the very least. I'll let you guys know if I find any other updates here, but if this guy did just randomly find this, I would put the helmet back and call the appropriate authorities to come deal with it.
If you see this in your home, don't kill it.
Sorry about the jump scare there, guys, but really, if you do find this in your home, it's actually in your best interest to keep it around. So this video that I was tagged in shows a white bump on the wall. Initially, I thought this possibly was a water bump, but instead it's actually an egg. This guy then picks it up, the baby gecko that's inside lunges out, the guy gets scared and drops it. Now in many locations that wall geckos are present, humans actually welcome them into the home with open arms, and this is for one giant reason. They consume pretty much every single household insect that's a pest that you don't want inside the home. We're talking wasps, flies, crickets, spiders, pretty much anything they can get their mouths around. Also, there are many different types of lizards that perform the same duties, but you'll know that you have wall geckos if you see 2 eggs at most sitting on the wall. This is a very standard orientation for them. So don't be too concerned if you find this in your house, just make sure that you don't accidentally crush it.
If you see this in your home, be worried.
This little guy right here might not seem like a very big deal, but in large numbers, they are a huge problem. This is a video that I got tagged in, and I'm not joking, at least 500 times. It shows a person recording their computer mouse, but more specifically, what looks to be a small piece of white hair. However, when we zoom in, we can see that this is actually an inchworm. Now by itself, this inchworm is not a very big deal, but in large numbers, it is. They come in many different sizes and shapes, some of them being extremely small, and others being larger. Most of the time, inchworms will eventually turn into moths as well. Now, where they become an issue is when you have an infestation on your hand and when this infestation takes place outside. This is because inchworms typically feed on leaves of trees and other plants, and they can absolutely decimate them, causing them to die. Not to mention, most people don't really like moths, and when all these inchworms eventually turn into moths, you're going to have a moth infestation. So I don't know if you necessarily need to dispatch of this one, but you should look around outside to make sure there's not an infestation taking place. Look, you guys already know the drill. If you see this plant, your day is completely ruined. So here we've got a slideshow that I was tagged in about the extinct Cooksonia plant. We see here that the Cooksonia plant went extinct 393 million years ago. So if you see one of these, chances are high that you've fallen into a rip in the fabric of space and time. We've already seen the same exact meme replicated with things like the lepidodendron tree and passenger pigeon, but I've got to be honest, the Cooksonia is a completely new one. And in case you haven't seen the meme, this is exactly what it looks like. Just replace Cooksonia with anything you can think of that's extinct, and it works. Cooksonia are relatively similar to the plants that we have nowadays. They were vascular plants. However, unlike the plants nowadays, they were extremely primitive and not very complex. And due to the narrow climates that they could survive in, they got outcompeted by plants that were just better at getting resources, which is why they went extinct so long ago. There are certain plants nowadays that could potentially be mistaken for a Cooksonia, but I can guarantee you, you are not going to find one of these.
If you see these, don't bring them home.
If you run across these in nature, it is probably not a very wise idea to bring these home. This is a TikTok video that I got tagged in that shows this guy foraging and collecting something that not a lot of people knew were frog eggs. He tosses a very large clump of them into this mason jar right here, and then brings them home and stores them inside of his own fish tank with the intentions of creating a frog army. Now, first and foremost, I believe this guy is probably aware, but taking care of frog eggs is a little bit more work than many might think. First and foremost, they need adequate amounts of sunlight every single day in order to ensure that they continue to progressively grow. In addition to this, when these eggs hatch and become tadpoles, he's going to have to clean the tank very regularly and also make sure that it gets exactly 1 hour of sunlight per day, otherwise it's going to get too hot and kill the tadpoles. And finally, if you have intentions of releasing these eggs anywhere else, it is going to be illegal. You have to drop them back off where you pick them up. So it might seem like kind of a fun project right now, but it is going to be quite a bit of work.
If you see this worm, don't cut it in half.
Yes, you absolutely heard that right. If you encounter one of these worms, don't cut it in half because it will turn into 2 worms. It's that time of year again where we're going to be talking about hammerhead worms. The reason being, these guys are extremely detrimental to agriculture. In this video, this guy's caught a pretty sizable specimen of a hammerhead worm, and these guys are an invasive species. They grow from 3 inches in length all the way up to 15 inches, and they're characterized by their hammerhead shape on the top of their head. Now, the reason that these guys are extremely bad for agriculture is they're earthworm killers. They kill earthworms, and earthworms are extremely beneficial for your garden. When you run into these guys, do not pick them up because they can cause skin irritation, and especially do not cut them into pieces. Each new piece will grow ahead and become a new worm. Instead, you should either pour salt on the worm or submerge it in vinegar. I know that these guys look pretty unassuming and like they're not a big deal, but they absolutely are. So if you see one of these, it's on site. Take it down.
If you see this, get away fast.
Money!
I would not want to be that kayaker. This is a TikTok video that I was tagged in. It's been posted on numerous social medias and gone extremely viral over the past 1.5 years. It shows this kayaker, all of a sudden he disturbs some sort of aquatic animal, and then all of these other aquatic animals around him start freaking out. And while this looks absolutely terrifying, this actually is not dangerous whatsoever. The creature responsible for creating all of this mayhem is actually a group of manatees. Manatees are very large aquatic creatures that typically grow between 9 to 13 feet long and weigh over 1,000 pounds. While this might seem terrifying, these creatures are solely vegetarian. There have been no records of them ever attacking a human, injuring them, or any other animal for that matter. However, if you startle them, just like seen in this video right here, this is their exact reaction. This is likely to scare away their presumed attacker. If you were to find yourself in this situation, the best thing to do would be to give this group of manatees space. Stop! Please! I've already seen far too many of these memes. I don't need to be in Gary's Mod. I mean, seriously, Gary's Mod is the place that Skibbity Toilet originated from. There is absolutely zero reason that I need to be in Gary's Mod. Zero reason. I am at my wit's end for these videos. You guys have taken my voice, put it into AI filters, made scripts. That's great. You guys have just made plain old memes. That's great. There is absolutely zero reason that I should end up in Gary's Mod. Like, this is for regular memes, like memes that are famous. You don't need to put me in Gary's Mod. You literally don't.
Would you do this dance in front of your father?
Bro!
No, I would not do this dance in front of my father because he would probably disown me. Oh, ho, ho, ho.